Dear friends, welcome to the NPTEL course on entrepreneurship. We have reached our final week, week 12, which comprises as usual 5 lectures. During this week we will discuss marketing strategy and startup case studies. In an earlier week we have considered commercialization and disruption as drivers of success. What then is the need for looking at marketing strategy again? Having looked at the way the startups function and the way significant reliance is placed on product technology and operational efficiency as the drivers of startup success, I have also realized that some of the startups fail to realize the importance of structured marketing. Therefore, I thought that it would be appropriate to have a dedicated session on marketing strategy. After that, we will go through 12 startup case studies which will demonstrate certain models of establishing startups and growing them. And finally, we will have a session on closing remarks. What is marketing? Many times we hear the word sales and marketing, and in certain other contexts we hear sales being inclusive of everything. However, marketing is actually the more comprehensive, all-encompassing terminology that should be used by us when we think of anything to do with a transaction that involves exchange of a product or service with a customer for a consideration. And marketing, irrespective of whether the customer is new or an old customer, and irrespective of whether the product is a product or a service, and irrespective of whether the product is new or an established product, involves identification of the need, the human and social need, because marketing is concerned with fulfillment of human and social needs. And to be able to do that, we need to identify precisely what kind of products and services would fulfill those needs. Then we should determine the price at which the customer would find it appropriate and affordable to take that product or service. And finally, when we look at marketing as a discipline, it consists of not only those steps of identifying the need and developing a product through, of course, the value chain of the company, but also positioning the product, promoting the product, distributing the product, selling, and finally delivering the product to the customer. But the marketing's responsibility does not end there. Marketing's responsibility extends to even after sales service to the customers, and it is this comprehensive gamut of operations under the broad terminology marketing that would enable a company build brand image for the product. So, if a product is recalled by a customer time and again, it is because the marketing of that product has been done in an appropriate way. The moment you equate marketing to sales, that is, I need to sell more products, you tend to lose sight of the several other important adjuncts to marketing function, which could create great value for the company and for the product. And marketing therefore serves the society, the firm, as well as the customers in terms of an allied value proposition. And what could be marketed? Generally we think of a product and service being marketed, but there are several other applications of marketing. An event can be marketed, an experience can be marketed, people can be marketed. When recruitment agencies offer people, they are being marketed. Similarly, places can be marketed. When the Ministry of Tourism or agencies related to travel industry talk about a particular place as of importance, then that place is getting marketed. Therefore, virtually anything can be marketed, everything can be marketed, from properties to ideas. And some of these marketing entities can themselves be the marketing tools. For example, an event that is organized to promote a new product launch, that is a marketing tool. The event is not being marketed, but the product is being marketed. Similarly, the experience of driving a car which is being offered is not getting marketed as an experience, but is working as a marketing tool to market the product. And when we talk about marketing, there are several needs, and the needs can be looked at from two angles. The first way of looking at it is it a need, a want, a desire, or an aspiration? A particular individual may like to have something as an aspiration. That need not necessarily mean he or she would like to fulfill that immediately through a product or a service. Therefore, we need to understand from the marketplace point of view what exactly are the immediate needs, what could be the wants, what could be the desirable trends, and tendencies, and what could be the operational thoughts that customers have. And similarly, we should look at how these products fall under different categories. Are they satisfying the most important, most basic needs, which are physiological needs, like need for a house, need for daily toothpaste, toothbrush, etc. Are they safety needs, like an insurance policy or something to do with one's well-being? Are they products or services which help the person feel that he is part of a good life society? Are they ones which are related to esteem, like a Mercedes-Benz car, or those things which lead a person to fully lead a contented life? So, would those needs help the person self-actualize himself? So, once you understand where this product or service is going to fall in terms of satisfying this desire, want, need, aspiration, which I call as dawns, and also which we look at the nature of the needs, we can understand what kind of needs are emerging and how those diverse needs could be fulfilled. And some of the needs again are very physical, you can feel them in your hand, you can use them, and some are emotional needs, some are experience needs, some are esteem needs. So, when you have this kind of gamut of needs, it is very clear that we need to understand the need hierarchy, need segmentation very clearly, and that is where the design thinking methodology we discussed in an earlier session, that becomes very important, because we could read the needs wrongly, we could read the customer's expectation wrongly, then the whole startup idea or even an established company's new product idea go aground. So, when you think about needs, you can look at a 2x2 matrix. The need could be a known need and unknown need, and the futurism which is involved in a need, that is nobody buys for today's requirement, nobody buys for yesterday's requirement. So, when someone wants to buy a car, he wants to fulfill a futuristic need, something which will meet, let us say, BS6 standards rather than BS4 standards, even if today is before April 1. Similarly, when you buy a smartphone, you would like that smartphone to be relevant for another few months. So, there is also a futurism involved when you make a decision. So, when we look at this, needs can be known, unknown. Futurism could be linear, that is, it can be expressed in terms of clear hierarchy of development. Like if you needed a 10 GB memory, if you wanted 12 GB memory, it is a linear futuristic need. And it could be completely non-linear, that is, you do not know what the future could bring in terms of the positivity. So, when you look at this thing, if you are fulfilling a known need which is likely to be futuristic only in a linear way, it is a linear known, and in this the established companies excel very much, because their whole operating mission is tuned to incrementally develop products and also offer those products incrementally to additional customers or achieve higher share. Then there is the question of linear growth, but the need is unknown. This is a space for creative startups and established entrepreneurial firms as well, because they are experimenting with what kind of product that could be done, but the level of creativity and innovation is not too high, it is linear. Then you have non-linear known, that is, you know that this is the product which customer wants, but his expectation is extremely high. That happened when people looked at cameras with selfie capability. There was a time when 0.8 MP or 1 MP was all that was there, but the growth was not linear, it was non-linear. Someone wanted 16 MP straight away, whatever was the capability of a rear camera was expected to be there in the frontal camera. So, it is a case for differentiating startups from established firms. That is, non-linearity is a capability of a startup or an entrepreneurial established firm, therefore, you can create new firms. But if you really want to talk genuine, authentic startups, non-linear unknown is the place where startups would play, and that is where they create their unique market segments and hopefully the unique industry segments. So, innovative startups excel in doing non-linear unknown, just as established companies excel in doing linear known. This is the kind of classification we should conceptualize and keep in mind as we think of marketing strategy. There are classically 4 P's of marketing. They have not changed over the last several decades: product, price, promotion, place. And when you talk about product, it is the design, the specification, the styling, the look and feel, the quality, the warranty offered, the brand, service, etc. And we talk about price, there is one price which is the sticker price, gross price or the marketing price. Then you have net price, discounts, payment terms, credit period. So there are several ways in which the price can be tempered, moderated and made attractive for the customer. Then you have promotion. The promotion takes place when the product is displayed in the shelf, on the shelf, when the product is sold through the sales force and advertising is resorted to and very specific brand building is made. And even digital marketing is one great tool of promotion in this digital area. And when you talk about place, we have got channels, warehouses, retail locations, inventory, transportation. But the change that is occurring in the digital area is that whatever was physical has become digital in part, and today companies believe in omni-channel. So these 4 P's are now becoming 12 P's as they are adapted to these 3 methods of doing marketing. It is also very important to understand what we mean by market. Many times people have this concept of total industry volume, that is for example in commercial vehicle industry, Ashok Leyland, Tata Motors and a few other commercial vehicle manufacturers would add up their total sale and they say that that is the demand. But that is not true. It is an aggregate output of these 5 manufacturers. It is not the demand. So, it is important to understand what is the real demand for the product or service I would like to market. Therefore, there are 4 concentric circles I demonstrate here. One is the deep blue circle which is there, which is the smallest circle. This is the operating market for the firm, which is the total industry volume we have referred to. Then we have got available market for the firm, and the third largest circle is the available market for the industry segment, and finally the available market for the industry. So when you look at, let us say, the same example of the commercial vehicle, let us say a company is doing the light commercial vehicle business and it is not into any other commercial vehicle. Then the operating market for the firm is the sales which it does for that particular product segment. But then light commercial vehicle is not the only thing which you could do. You may be considering that certain special application vehicles are not your cup of tea and therefore you are not considering them as your product range. Then if you keep adding those kinds of things, you will get the available market for the firm. Similarly, if you are operating only in India, and if you see what other markets you could be playing in, that becomes the available market for the product firm. If you are able to sell 20 products in a country and you are able to get $200 million, by offering the same products in all the countries, you can obviously get much more. That is the available market for the firm. You do nothing in terms of products, but you expand your markets, you get additional market. Then you look at the available market for the industry segment. The light commercial vehicles we are making is only, let us say, in 2 ton to 4 ton gross vehicle weight range, but light commercial vehicle goes up to, let us say, 8 ton gross vehicle weight. Then the available market for the industry expands. And finally, when you look at the whole commercial vehicle industry, including trucks, buses, all kinds of goods transportation and passenger transportation, the market would be much larger. So we need to understand what is the market available in terms of product market grouping, homogeneous product clusters, homogeneous market clusters, and then try to map out. And that exercise should be done in year 1, year 2, 3, 4, 5 basis. So in one of the companies where I have been working at the helm, we had 130 products being marketed in the United States of America, and that provided a turnover of, let us say, $2 billion. But when we looked at this potential in several other markets, by simply homologating the products to other markets, we are able to double the sales potential. So the concentric circle method of looking at the market in terms of operating market, available market for the industry segment, and finally the available market for the industry is indeed an eye opener for any company to look at in terms of development. And we have this classic product market grid. What are my existing products, what are the new products, and what are my existing markets and what are my new products. So if you choose to stay within the existing product, existing market grid, the only way you can grow is by either getting additional customers or increasing your penetration. On the other hand, if you want to play with new products in the existing market, you would probably open up the markets a little more and then you get additional customers based on the new products. On the other hand, you can seek out new markets for the existing products, an example which I talked about earlier. And finally, creativity again, coming back to the startup thing, when you create new products with completely new products, you are obviously creating completely new industry segments and industries as a whole. These two quadrants which are developed by new products serve as the natural play for startups in this marketing. Like every other discipline, marketing is also evolving, and when the evolution of the marketing is painted, you can see these three particular ways of looking at it. One is the three major market forces that are impacting the marketing. One, technology. We covered technology in great detail in this course. Then globalization, again we covered that in multiple examples. And finally, the environmental, social and health responsibility. We can no longer do something which other countries have refused to do, but we think that we can do that product here, nor could just be done in terms of not looking at the pollution impact of whatever we are doing. So, those are the three trends which are impacting the market forces. So, marketing department no longer has the freedom to say that you please give me the product without looking at these factors. And the market dynamics, new consumer requirements and new company capabilities, and that tells us whether this firm is going to renew itself or transform itself. And marketing itself is no longer the selling operation, as I mentioned. It is a product driven marketing, it could be a need centric marketing, could be person oriented marketing, or it could be experience driven marketing. So, when we talk about marketing, it is basically influencing a customer to buy a product. So, we could call it purchasing behavior, we could also call it consumer behavior. Many times we predicate our marketing decisions on certain consumer behavior, but consumer behavior is not always rational. It goes through different ways of looking at the same product, although the need has been expressed in a very clear manner when the market research was being done or when the sales force was prospecting the requirement. And to understand the consumer behavior, we should see the marketplace in terms of three clear segregated areas. Bottom of pyramid consumers who look at subtle ways of fulfilling their needs. Their needs are very stable, basic and they are high volume needs. Then we have the huge what we call middle class or the aspiring class, aspirational consumers. They are volatile. If the jobs are good, if the employment creation is good, if the purchasing power is high, if the bonuses are good, the demand spikes up. But in general, they would like to have premium and mid volume needs. And finally, you have high net worth individuals who have stable luxury, low volume needs. So, understanding the consumer pyramid is important to understand the consumer behavior trends, and that influences the marketing department in terms of its communication. For the bottom of pyramid consumers, in order to get the proper consumer behavior, you should be very clear, very open and very detailed about how the need is getting satisfied in terms of the functionalities, usage, the warranty and the stability. Whereas the aspirational consumers need to be communicated the premium features of your product or services. And as far as HNIs are concerned, you only communicate luxury, esteem, high quality. So, if you look at the advertisements or communication messages for a luxury brand versus an aspirational brand versus a bottom of the pyramid brand, you will find that the messages are completely different, and the celebrities probably are used much more for HNI and aspirational needs and much less for the bottom of the pyramid consumers. And again, talking about bottom of the pyramid is not in any kind of negative or not so important sense. In fact, everyone agrees and everyone genuinely believes that it is the bottom of the pyramid consumer section that we need to really focus on, at least in emerging economies like ours, so that their needs are respected and they are fulfilled and they are enabled to expand their quality of life, upgrade their quality of life. Therefore, any startup which looks at the bottom of the pyramid consumer is as important and as relevant as a startup which looks at the aspirational consumer. This is a chart which is a busy chart and which looks about the buyer seller characteristics. A buyer could be a corporation and a corporation could also be a seller. Similarly, an individual could be a buyer, could be a seller. Depending upon how this individual positions himself or herself as a buyer or seller, and again on a corporation or in his individual capacity, The characteristics vary a lot, and I would leave this slide for you to mull over as you go through the materials. So, what is the digital impact on buy sell? The single prominent impact is that there is instant visibility of the total universe of the products, what you cannot do in a physical store, because products could be mono-brand stores. Even if they are multi-brand stores, only certain kinds of multi-brands would be there, and there is time constraint. But with digital marketing, you can see the entire digital universe, and then you can optimize your time of purchasing. You can select when to purchase, and you also encounter certain issues like you do not have the lack of physical look and feel. So, how does the digital impact manage? They have done something which is not usually done by the physical stores. They have introduced a policy of standardized returns to provide consumer confidence. So, when a new method of marketplace comes into being, it is left to that marketplace to evolve its own norms, so that it can become as important as the physical or the established marketplace. Then again we have another tool, which is the analysis of consumer group and the product group. It may be very easy to imagine that wherever there is a plus, that is high profitability, and that group and that product should be the one which should be preferred. But a company's marketing decision cannot always be based on the product profitability consideration. If you are having even a negative profit product, at times it becomes important to provide that product. For example, you are selling pharmaceuticals, there could be antibiotics which are the top of the mind recall products for treating infections, but at the same time you must also offer the older generation antibiotics, because large parts of the population would require those kinds of low cost products. So, you have to do a bundled approach. You can have a high profit product, but also you can have a medium product and at times even negative profit product. So, marketing decisions and the product profitability decisions are not easily made. They are made with lot of conscious understanding of the total marketplace and what would build the company's image in the market. Then we have the product marketing plan. When you have all these kinds of things put into a place and a basic plan is set up, you have got the product prototyping phase, which we discussed at great length. Then you have pilot marketing phase, and then the marketing phase. The experience with marketing is that the pilot marketing is not given the kind of due importance that should be given, because pilot marketing may not change the specifications, but it provides a very good piece of advice to the firms on the communication strategy to be adopted, on the consumer behavior changes that could have happened after the initial design thinking phase has been completed and the product developed. And then the perception filters. How do we have the perceptions influence the final marketing call? Generally there is a cost arithmetic, which is the product cost, the service cost, and then there is a benefit arithmetic. Cost arithmetic is made by the company and it is very visible, but the benefit arithmetic is perceived by the consumer, and it could be a tangible benefit or an intangible benefit. And when someone looks at these benefits, he or she would also look at the monetary value and the non-monetary value that comes from the benefit. So, that comes the value proposition. And finally, when a company looks at these three segments, the company starts looking at how I should play with the value perception. Should I reprice the product? Should I discount the product? Should I trade in or trade back? Which is one of the reasons why you have today offers of trade in even for cars. Not only for smartphones, you have even for cars a trade in policy, assuring that 5 years down the road you can exchange your car for a particular reason. That is an assurance. So, how do you influence the value perception is something which could be a part of marketing strategy, and the various communication options I have listed here, and you could go through again at your leisure. This product purchasing decision, which is part of the consumer behavior, is a complex decision. I have illustrated 16 steps in this process, which starts from the product purchasing decision and goes through a number of iterative questions, and finally looks at last 4 violet verticals. One, what are the features and functionality? What is the reliability and serviceability that the product offers? What is the value experience I am going to give? And finally, is the brand that I am going to vote for providing the right brand equity. So, this interplay of variables before the consumer reaches this final point of analyzing the product comprises several steps, and at each step the company has got the marketing opportunity and also certain marketing tools to influence the purchasing decision. So, a good marketing strategy does not look at the end product advertisement alone, it looks at influencing the product purchase decision all through these 12 steps that precede the final definition of the purchasing decision. Another important thing we have in marketing strategy is how do we build the brand equity. Brand equity is something which is akin to the personality of an individual. It is the product personality, and that brand equity comes from several factors. First and foremost, the product performance. Second, product reliability. Third, product serviceability. Fourth, the usage experience, the pricing option, and finally the corporate credibility. There could be companies which are very credible, but their brands could be kind of also run brands may not be having the kind of equity which let us say fast moving consumer goods of Hindustan Lever has. Therefore, there could be those kinds of companies, but on the other hand there could be companies such as Hindustan Lever which have got not only corporate brand equity, but also individual product line brand equity. So, this is a process that gets accomplished over several years of performance in the marketplace. Therefore, brand differentiation, brand loyalty, brand recall, these are three essential components of a brand equity paradigm. Customer relationship management is an important aspect of marketing strategy. How do we communicate with the customer? How do we collaborate with the customer? How do we customize our product to the consumer? These are the three aspects of CRM, and to be able to do that, fundamentally we have Salesforce engagement, but we also have a lot of data analytics going as much as observing consumers behavior, including the eye contact, how the hands move, and the kind of tentative nature of a consumer's behavior in the store. All those things could be captured and analyzed through artificial intelligence, deep learning, and some kind of very advanced data analytics be developed. That is one part. The other part is providing a better experience in terms of digital payments and even completely cashless easy checkout, which Amazon has pioneered. So, there are several ways in which customer can be brought closer, or the company can go closer to the customer utilizing these tools. Then we have retailing options, which could start with retail at a single place as a single retailer to company retail stores, and then multi-brand retail options, and finally digital marketplaces. And here again, should the retailer be independent? Should the retailer have licensing and franchising options, or should the retailer have joint ventures? These are the strategic options. So, when we look at marketing strategy and look at all these kinds of options, we realize how broad the marketing strategy as a concept is and as an operational activity is, and how many elements are involved, and each of these things qualifies as a particular line of thinking and a particular department. Same applies to packaging. Packaging is as important as the product. Product may mean something to the company which is manufacturing and may be a perception to the customer, but the translation or the bridge between what the company thinks and what consumer wants is given by packaging. In certain industries, particularly in FMCG and also in pharmaceutical industry, packaging is very important because it is the warranty given by the company saying that what I am selling in this container or in this blister pack is the product which has ABCD specifications. And good packaging is tamper proof, it is traceable, and is uniquely identifiable. So, packaging is an extremely important aspect of marketing, and in pharmaceutical industry, labeling and packaging constitute one entire section of the drug master file or the abbreviated new drug application which the company has to make to the regulators. So, even a good product loses its value without good packaging. It could be due to damages en route, or it could be due to simply bad feel you have when you look at the packaging. So, the shippers, the primary containers, they all need to be of quality that is fit for the purpose. That is extremely important. Labeling is also one part of the packaging which gives the final specifications of the product. The labeling always should be certified. We see on our labels FSSAI or other labels. Then it should be informative and it should be protective of consumers' interests primarily. Wholesaling is another very important aspect of selling, because a company is not able to reach the market. We have the retailers, but between the retailers and the company you need a buffer, and that buffer is a wholesaler, and the wholesaler typically is a kind of conglomerate kind of concept, that is he or she under his or her ownership has number of brands. It is no longer just the Lupin brand of pharmaceuticals or Alembic brand of pharmaceuticals. Every pharmaceutical is with the wholesaler. The very important function is to make just in time availability feasible in an industry where the demand is unpredictable. So, wholesalers perform a huge responsibility to the marketing value chain of a company. Dealership is another very important aspect of wholesaling, but dealership is a combination of wholesaling concept and retailing concept, whereas a wholesaler never sells a product direct to the consumer and a retailer directly sells the product to the consumer. You have dealership where products are displayed and the consumer has a choice, and dealership is typically taken when the product requires lot of display, lot of explanation, lot of technology and requires post sales servicing. So, automobile industry, white goods industry are classic examples where dealership is the way to market the products. But one thing we need to keep in mind is that the sales a company does to a wholesaler, to a retailer or to the dealership is not the sales that is required of the customer. These are what we may call secondary sales, they are not the primary sales, because the true demand is when the product reaches the market, and most of marketing challenges remain unfulfilled in understanding what is the actual sale that is happening at the customer place. That is why you have prescription audits, you have got several retail audits in certain industries to make sure that what we see as the primary sale and what we see as the statistically sampled sale are one and the same. Transportation is another very important aspect of sales. Good transportation practice is extremely important. There are products which require cold chain storage and cold chain transportation and track and traceability, not just the RFID kind of tracking, but track and tracing of the commodity across various geographies. That becomes extremely important. Then we have this concept of market segmentation. How do we segment the market? I have given here an example of Samsung phones, how you can see from the feature phone to the latest Galaxy S20, 20 plus and ultra range, and how does one differentiate the market. Differentiation is through certain key specifications. When you look at the smartphones, by looking at display quality, the build quality, the memory capacity, main camera capability, selfie camera capability, the battery capacity, just to quote 6 parameters, you can segment the market from 10,000 rupees to 100,000 rupees in steps of 10,000 rupees and in memory steps of several GB and other categories, including pixel density and zoom capabilities. So, the more the technology gets evolved and expressed in terms of certain new functionalities, it is possible to segment the market in a much more granular way. Marketing strategy again therefore involves understanding of the technology and making sure that the market segmentation is done in such a way that the overall market can be serviced in a much better fashion. Some of the last concepts. One, the product life cycle concept. Every product will have its introduction phase, the growth phase, the maturity phase and the decline phase. And product life cycle management is nothing but ensuring that the maturity phase lasts as long as possible and you try to keep the product alive and growing with product improvements. But again, product life cycle management can be of limited use when technological changes are disruptive and new technologies are seen to be decidedly better than the existing technologies. So, incremental technological improvements may not be accepted to that extent. But that said, Basic products continue to be useful, as I mentioned in the smartphone example, where a feature phone is still relevant even in today's high technology smartphone era. Therefore, how do we ensure that the product life cycle is operate in such a manner that all kinds of products are offered for all kinds of market segments. These are some of the characteristics of product life cycle. Again, I would urge you to go through these aspects at your leisure. Another important concept is the price elasticity. There are two types of products where the demand just does not get changed irrespective of the price. That product is extremely important. For example, automotive fuel. If you need to move, whether the price is 70 rupees per liter or 700 rupees per liter, you would need that. So, the demand is fairly inelastic. On the other hand, there could be a demand which could vary irrespective of the price. The demand could be varying irrespective of the price changing. It again depends upon the purchasing power which is made available. If there are more people who are wanting to have, let us say, bread on a particular day because certain other alternatives are not available, even if the price is held the same, the demand would increase. Therefore, there are perfectly elastic products, there are perfectly inelastic products. But in general, the curve is that the lower the price, the higher the demand, except in some exceptions where there is a perception that if the price is low, the quality is poor, therefore, the demand could even come down. Taking away such exceptions, such paradoxes, the truth is that if you are more competitive in terms of price, the demand is likely to be higher. Again, this price elasticity of curve, how sharply the curve would move depends on the context of the industry and context of the product. Price being so important, we also have in strategy the concept of entry deterrent price, which has been formulated by Professor Michael Porter. It talks about the price at which a new product can be introduced into the market. Let us say you have an industry average player at an X amount of price, and you have a potential opportunity player which could come with the price that is relevant, commensurate with the premium features that are being offered. If the price is higher than that, it is unlikely that the entry will be welcomed, and even if the entry is possible, it could be a muted entry. On the other hand, if the pricing is below the entry deterrent price, it is quite possible that the product could be lapped up. And how does the price get calculated? These are the components of price. You have the material cost, the conversion cost, which together give you the cost of goods. Then you have got several marketing expenses, marketing cost, fixed dealership cost. Then you have ASP, advertising and sales promotion cost. Then you have the direct sales force cost, and you arrive at total cost, and you may choose to have a particular margin, and therefore, there is a target price. So, it is important when you start this marketing exercise, you understand the cost of products and potential price possibility very clearly. Look at what the industry could accept in terms of entry deterrent price, and then look at the overall market penetration strategy. And finally, marketing being such a diffused and diverse activity, the marketing organization typically tends to be one of the largest pieces of organization. Either it is FMCG or it is pharmaceuticals or white goods, you will find that marketing organization is one of the largest in terms of the skill sets as well as in terms of the specialization. Typically, you would have a chief marketing officer reporting to the managing director, and three verticals would be there. One is dealing with distribution, including all these aspects of good transportation, logistics, etc., warehousing also. Then you have national sales, which is again geographically, zonally divided, and you have product management, which looks at all of these aspects of packaging, designing, market research, communication, customer relationship management, product positioning, etc., and these typically tend to be with reference to different product lines. So, when you look at the review of marketing strategy in its both expanse as well as depth, as I could do in this short frame of time, you realize how important structured marketing strategy is for a company to be able to convert all the good work done either as an established company or as a startup in terms of a novel product or service into actual realizable sale, which provides good commercialization opportunity and growth opportunity for the company.